Alright, so guys, this is a follow-up video to part number 1 for the 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit 1, which is being proactive. So, still listening to the book, and another thought popped into my head, and I figured I would talk about it. So, one of the most important things that, at least for me, that I believe in, is the way you talk to yourself is basically what's going to determine your future. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example for my son. Again, 10 years old, and me personally, I put all the blame on myself. No matter what it is, it's my fault. Whether good, bad, it's my fault that something happened. So for him though, and I'm basically gonna, like, not literally, but like, if I have to beat it out of him, again, not literally, I will. And because what he will do is the way he talks, and a lot of people do this, and not a lot, but like most people do this, and they don't realize it's holding them back, is the way you talk, it's really setting you back. Okay, so what he does is, like, the other day, I don't even know when it was at this point, but like, he walked into the coffee table, right? So instead of blaming it on himself that he stubbed his toe on the coffee table, somehow it was the coffee table hurt my foot, right? And it's something small, but he's putting the blame on something else. Now, if you put the blame on something else, how can you possibly begin to, figure out what the problem is, and more importantly, how to solve those problems if you're constantly blaming someone else? Because if it's someone else's fault, there's not anything that you could possibly do, right? And there's other examples, but it's more or less the same. There was, what did he hit? Same thing. It's usually like when he's stubbing his toe. I think he did on his bed as well, and he's like blaming the bed for him stubbing his toe. And I'm like, did we just get this bed, or has it been here for the last 4 years? And you constantly are deciding to blame it on the bed. There was another thing that basically blamed, something happened, and he actually blamed his finger. I forget what it was, but he's like, my finger made me do that, or my finger messed up, or something like that. I'm like, no, you messed up. It happened to be your finger, but you messed up. And I keep on trying to drill this in his head, and I hope that when he gets older, he like fully understands this and appreciates why I say what I say and do what I do. But again, no matter what you do or what happens, it's your fault, right? So if your business is super successful, and it's successful because you have all these leads coming in, or because you're selling all these jobs, or whatever else, well, it's because it's a direct reflection of what you did, right? It doesn't matter that you hired this outside company to manage your marketing or your advertising or whatever it may be. It's because you made the choice to hire that company that now you are reaping the rewards of that decision. Or because you chose that company, and because you put out the financial liability to hire that company, because of that, you are now reaping the rewards. It's not because something else happened that something like you got the reward from it. No, it's because of the direct actions that you took, which is super, super important. And the way I relate it to him, and again, I keep on saying, it doesn't matter what happens, good or bad, it is your fault. But a lot of times, like when you hear someone say, well, it's your fault that this happened, it's, it has that negative connotation to it. But the way I explain to them, and I'll say, like, if we, because every, like around Christmas time, we will donate, we'll go to the store and we'll basically spend a few $100 and buy toys, and, donate them. And I would say to them, like, this is your fault that we're doing this, right? And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that this happened. Now because of like what's going on, and because you took the time to go to the store and stuff, it's now like 20 more kids have Christmas gifts, right? So super important. And again, it's a follow-up to the other video, just because like I'm listening to the audio tape somewhere and I'm driving to go pick them up for school, and it just popped it up in my head, and it's super, super important. The way you talk to yourself, it's going to determine what actually happens. Another example, more of the same, so you can shut this off if you want. But because of COVID and everything else happening and everyone being stuck in the house and everything else, it was a tough time between, for myself, my wife, and my son. And then in the midst of all that, like, we had our daughter last April. So it was just chaotic, absolutely chaotic, when the hospital and everyone else is basically saying that, if you come in with COVID, that we're going to take the baby away after she's born, right? And obviously that doesn't sit well with a mother, especially when she wants to breastfeed and she's worried that, if you take her away for a few days, well, then you don't have that motherly bond, and like, she may not even know you as a mother, right? And so anyway, super stressful. And then after we get home, and now we're dealing with that, plus dealing with schoolwork, right? And basically being a teacher. And like, tensions were high and everything else. And honestly, it was a shitty situation. And what we would, like, me and my wife included, I would keep on saying to myself, like, not all the time, but it would just build up, and I would say, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't fight with him to do his schoolwork. I can't fight with him to do the classwork and all this stuff. I can't do this, right? And it started out innocently, but when I keep on telling myself, I cannot take this anymore, I cannot do this anymore, what it's doing is telling your brain that basically what I was dealing with my son, with, dealing with the schoolwork and the homework and all that, and basically being a teacher, along with paying thousands of dollars a month for him to go to the school, which was no longer at school, whatever. When I kept on saying that, I kept on ingraining into my head that I cannot do this. So what happened? Did the situation get any better? No, it got 10 times worse, and everything would just start upsetting me all the time. And instead of reacting the way I should have and trying to be more encouraging, like, I'm constantly saying, well, why are you doing this? Why do you do this? Like, what, you can't do this, right? Now, does that motivate a 10-year-old? No, not at all. Actually, there's none at that point. And I have to, but because I kept on saying I can't do this, it just got worse and worse and worse. So what do I say now? Like, when that stuff happens, it's like, I really don't want to be dealing with this, or I prefer not to do this, right? And what happens is, one, it changes your mindset a little bit, and then, so that's like getting away from the worst aspect, right? Of I can't do something to I'd rather not do something. But then we get to the next level, was how can I stop this from happening, right? And when you keep on asking yourself, how can I stop this from happening? Or better yet, when you go to your 9-year-old son or my 9-year-old son, say, how can we stop this from happening? It changes your mindset, and it makes your brain actually search for the answers. And are you going to get these answers right away? No. But when you are not thinking about it, when you're sleeping, when you're doing your daily tasks and everything else, your brain is working in the background to find the examples or find the solutions to that problem. So anyway, again, this is part 1A or 1B, I guess. But it's super important. The way you talk to yourself is the only way you're going to be able to reframe your brain, and so that way you can start moving forward. Because again, like, if you keep on saying I can't do this, or because my family was like this, I'm like this, or whatever it may be, you're just holding yourself back, and you can't get to the person that you need to be. So start changing it. And again, it's everything. Like, no matter what the stimulus is or the situation is, it doesn't matter what the situation is, because that situation does not determine your actions. It doesn't determine your response. The only thing that determines your response to a certain situation is you. And again, it's very hard to deal with, because when you stop putting the blame on the other people, I'm blaming my son for not doing schoolwork, and I'm not doing this, and blah blah blah. Well, I took the blame away from myself, but I have to realize that he's not a great student, same way I was not a great student. And even though my parents did not help me with school, my parents would not check up on my homework. I would basically, once I got my progress report, if I had anything other than A's and B's, I got grounded. I just knew that. But I was a little bit more organized than my son is, though he's like my twin, which drives me crazy on some days, especially before, when I wasn't reframing my brain to think the way it should be thinking. Instead of blaming him, I should have been like, how can I help him, right? And because if he's not doing his homework or schoolwork or whatever it may be, well, maybe he just needs a manager to basically follow up and actually just check his homework and make sure he does his homework. Like, it was that simple. But no, instead, I was putting all the blame on him, and we can't change the situation unless he changes who he is as a person. But if I have all these faults, how can I possibly expect my 9 and 10-year-old son not to have these faults as well, or not to have faults of his own? It's just completely ridiculous, right? So anyway, hope you guys have an awesome day, and remember that you control your destiny. It's not someone else. It's not these outside actions that determine what's happening, and it doesn't determine how you get to react and everything else. It's because of you that you're in the situation you're in. And the quicker that you realize that and learn that and accept it, the quicker that you can start to improve. Because again, and I know I keep on saying this, what happened when you're growing up, what your family life was like, what your friends were like, everything, it doesn't matter. It only matters on how you handle yourself, and only you get to determine how you handle yourself. So anyway, have an awesome day, and I will awesome decorations for Halloween. Anyway, have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.